This happened around 2011 when I was renting an apartment with a friend. It was a typical 2-bedroom apartment in an old 5-story building. My friend's name was Vika. Sometimes her father stayed overnight in her room because he worked night shifts. I lived there alone most of the time. Since her room was bigger, she took the living room, and I moved into the smaller bedroom. The neighborhood was actually very nice, quiet, respectable. Most of the neighbors were elderly people. Sometimes in the evenings they even gathered outside the building and danced to accordion music. Oddly enough, it never bothered anyone. In general, it was just a normal building. We lived there for about a year, and nothing strange ever happened. No strange noises, no uneasy atmosphere. Except for one incident. The apartment had almost no furniture. I didn't bother buying anything because I wasn't sure how long I would stay. The landlady was moody and sometimes complained about the smallest things. So in my room, I only had a clothes rack, an inflatable mattress, and that was it. The mattress was placed under the window near the radiator. In winter, it was warmer there, and in summer it stayed cool. There was a thin, transparent curtain on the window, and outside there was a street lamp. Because of that, the room was always faintly lit at night. But it never bothered me. One winter night I woke up suddenly, for no reason. I just opened my eyes and lay there for a few minutes looking at the radiator. The apartment was quiet, only the ticking of a clock, and occasionally the sound of cars passing outside. Finally, I decided to get up and go to the bathroom. I turned toward the room and froze. Right beside my mattress, squatting on the floor, was a woman. I still remember exactly what she looked like. Bleached yellow hair with dark roots just below her shoulders. Brown eyes, a red turtleneck sweater, a denim jacket and jeans. She looked completely solid, completely real. She was just sitting there, staring at me, and I was staring back. Several long seconds passed. Finally, I asked the most logical question I could think of. "Who are you?" Honestly, it probably would have made more sense to scream and run out of the apartment. But strangely, I wasn't scared. For some reason, I had completely forgotten that I was alone in the apartment. Vika was visiting her parents at the time. The woman never answered my question. Instead, she started smiling, slowly, very slowly stretching her lips, like something out of a cheap horror movie. And then I saw her mouth. She had no teeth, none at all. In the dim light, it looked like a black hole in the middle of her pale face. And then I did something even stranger. I simply stood up on the mattress and turned toward the window, with my back to her. And I started thinking, how could anyone even be inside the apartment? The door was locked. The windows were closed. I'm a very light sleeper. I would have heard someone come in. And the floor in my room creaked terribly, even under the weight of a child. Under an adult, it would have been unbelievably loud. My head filled with questions, but still no fear. Until suddenly I remembered something. I was alone in the apartment. That was when panic hit me. My heart dropped into my stomach. My hands felt weak. I wanted to scream. All those emotions flooded in within seconds. I spun around. The room was empty, completely empty. Just the clothes rack, the mattress, and me. No footsteps, no creaking, no door sounds, nothing. She vanished as suddenly as she had appeared. It was around 4 a.m. I couldn't sleep after that. I sat in the kitchen listening to every sound in the apartment and thinking about only one question. Who was she? Yekretak. My parents never used that name to scare me. My friends never told stories about it. I had never heard the word before. And yet, somehow, I knew that was the name of the thing that lived in my room. A word that doesn't exist in any language. A word that made my heart skip a beat every time it crossed my mind, and brought tears to my eyes for reasons I could never explain. I never actually saw it, but I knew exactly what it looked like. Slightly taller than a child, dark skin, almost black, and human eyes. Every evening I tried to delay the moment when I had to return to my room. Sometimes I stayed outside until it was late. Sometimes I helped my mother with laundry. Sometimes I simply hid in other rooms of the house. The only proof that Yekretak existed were thin scratches on the wallpaper. Once my father tried to scold me for them, but I pointed out that the scratches were almost at the ceiling, far higher than I could ever reach. Every night I wrapped myself tightly in my blanket and listened. I listened to it breathing. It sounded like the way dogs breathe. I could listen to that sound until morning. Sometimes I even fell asleep while it was still there. Whenever I had the chance, I ran into my parents' bedroom. Sometimes they sent me back. Sometimes they let me stay. But one night, Yekretak touched my hand. Cold, sticky. In that moment, I suddenly realized that I might die right there. It was a horrible feeling. And the worst part was that somehow I both knew and had absolutely no idea how it was going to happen. I couldn't take it anymore. I jumped up and ran to my parents' room. I grabbed the doorknob, locked. So I ran to the storage closet. My legs barely worked. I kept stumbling as I ran. I threw the closet door open, fell inside and slammed it shut. I crawled into the farthest corner, trying not even to breathe. And then, from somewhere beside me, near a pile of old rags, I heard a voice. Raspy, unclear. Symptoms: auditory hallucinations, delusional thinking, paranoia. Diagnosis: treatment-resistant schizophrenia. Please write that down. Write it down, ladies and gentlemen.